is the Sensitive CEO Show, igniting sensitive entrepreneurs to grow your heart-centered business. I'm your host, Rose Cox, and this podcast shares with you inspiring and thought-provoking conversations for sensitive entrepreneurs wanting to grow a sustainable online business in a way that feels exciting and aligned with your soul. Along with my carefully curated expert guests, we share science-backed advice, proven strategies, and the systems we use to succeed in our businesses and our lives as highly sensitives, introverts, and empaths. And by the way, if you would like to be updated on when each episode is released, feel free to subscribe to the short and sweet newsletter. You'll also get weekly recommendations and tips, especially for HSPs, empaths, and introverts. To subscribe, pop on over to the website sensitiveceo.show or rosecox.com/pod. Now on to today's show. Hey, it's Rose and welcome to another episode of the Sensitive CEO Show. And in this week's episode, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Andrea Tessier. Andrea is a certified master life coach and personal freedom coach. She's also a yogi, so we have that in common, and a world traveler. We also have that in common. So Andrea, welcome. It's wonderful to talk with you today.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. I would love for you to share your personal story and how you got to be where you are today in your business and in your life.
Oh, okay. So presently I work with heart-centered, mission-driven entrepreneur women who feel stuck or in their own way. And I help her discover the patterns and beliefs that are really in her way so she can build the aligned business, but also a life that she loves. And for me, this comes from, being a teacher for 13 years. I worked in the school system and then, obviously was a student in the system. And so for like 35 years of my life, a bell told me when I could pee, right? When I could eat my lunch, when I could take my holidays. And, bound to the most expensive flights to travel because you had to always go when it was school holidays. And, it was 13 years of students' needs and parents' needs and colleagues' needs and school initiative changes, which were so draining to my sensitive nervous system. And in the end, my system couldn't take it. And my biggest yearning was to feel free. And I ended up giving up this secure, quote unquote, secure job because I thought I wanted the freedom in my day. I thought I wanted the freedom to travel, the freedom to wake up when I wanted. And so I did that. And I got to do all of those things and follow my calling and heal my burnout. But it was really after accessing those things that I realized that something was still off because there was an internal freedom that I was yearning for. And even though I had freed myself from this system, I was still unconsciously bound to limiting beliefs and patterns that were really fully standing in the way of the impact and joy and ease that I really desired to feel fulfilled. And so that's sort of what brought me to where I am now and wanting to just give a full permission slip to other women to live the life that they want to live now and really redefining what freedom means for people and ways to access that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's so interesting. And it's so funny what comes up when I talk to people, because something that came up for me was when I was in my 20s still. I'd worked in London for quite a while in corporate, and then I just kind of escaped and I ended up living on a yacht around the Caribbean and South America. And I did that for quite a few months, and I ended up living in Venezuela on an island. And I was totally free. But after a few months, I was really quite bored. I wasn't fulfilled, and I still had a lot of inner work to do. So isn't it interesting what you really crave for? You get there and it's like, oh, hang on, this isn't what I thought it would be.
Yes. And what I realized is exactly that, is you can have all of those things. And for me, I realized that there was a part of me that still felt broken.
Yeah.
You know, that something was wrong with me because I didn't have the relationship or the career or, XYZ, what we're supposed to have. And that something was wrong with me, that I was broken. And it's really like this personal development journey that I am such an advocate for, that unlocked that for me or healed that in me so that I could feel whole and complete and unbroken. And that's what I want everyone to be able to access, like this, like this home.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's why that's why I do this work, is because everybody gets to access that. And it's so exciting to me. So that's what like really, really fuels me in the work that I do now.
How would you define true freedom, Andrea?
Yeah. So, and this is a great question to ask, because so many people are saying that they want freedom, but how often do we actually like talk about what does that look like?
Yeah.
And for me, it's the right or the permission to experience your desires, right? To act, to speak, to think, or to do, be, and have in the now moment, right? Because most people think that when I have XYZ, I'll feel free, or I'll feel happy, or I'll feel safe, right? But true freedom is the full permission to experience that now.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And what are some ways that you recommend to others to find that true freedom within us?
Yeah. So many things. Yeah. I mean, which is amazing. Like,
but I didn't do it.
Good. Living in Hong Kong, did it temporarily, but I didn't do it, Yeah. Well, the mistakes people make are, well, first of all, is they outsource their universal needs, right? So they think that when I have the 6 figures, or when I have the number of clients, or when I have the, sold out program, or the relationship, or whatever it is, the house on the lake, that's fine. Where when I have that, then I'll feel how I want to feel. And what that means is that we're constantly outsourcing, our needs for approval, or our needs for control, or our needs for safety, which are basic human needs that you get to have, but you get to be the one that sources that within you. And then the other mistakes that people make are, of course, the comparing, right? Like, am I doing this right? Is somebody doing it better? Is this the right way? What's wrong with me? Right. And then not being in alignment with the truth of who they are, right? Not being aligned with their gifts, whether it's being sensitive, being an empath, being an introvert, whether it's, the gifts of their human design or their expertise, or how they truly light up a room. And it's always going to keep people away from their freedom. And so from where I sit when I'm supporting my clients in one-on-one coaching, or in my programs, or anybody, it's like, well, let's bring this down to, what is needed right now. And so the solution that I see is like the nervous system work, like deep nervous system regulation, so that we can be free from our automatic responses. Right. So that we have more control over our physiology, which is available to us. It's also like the deep embodied, like belief shifting work, right? So we can choose the more empowering thoughts and beliefs. And then it's seeing our gifts and accepting our gifts and aligning with them, so that we can truly serve in a way that only you can and should, because that is why you're here. That's the general overview, and we can certainly go into specifics. But
Yeah, I'd love to. I love all of that. I guess what I wanted to ask, so a lot of people are becoming more aware of their gifts, with these, I guess, human design coming out, even understanding that you're highly sensitive, which is quite a new thing for me, and really understanding these gifts. But if you've been on this treadmill for a long time and you don't have the self-belief, or you've got limiting beliefs and you've got blocks all over the place, how can you truly accept your gifts and live with them?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I mean, this is a process of unfolding. This isn't a one and done, right? And this being in and of the work as well. It's a process, and it's a rediscovery of who you are. And, we've been so conditioned to, think in certain ways, in certain ways. And the first step is to truly get curious, I believe, like these things that are showing up in my life right now, the way that I'm acting, the way that I'm choosing, the way that I'm thinking. Do I choose this? Like, is this useful to me? And whatever it is this morning meditation useful to me? Is this second bowl of ice cream useful to me? Is this, is working 10 hours a day useful to me? And there's no judgment in right or wrong, but we got to start getting curious about the way that we're showing up. Because if the answer is not yes, well, then we get to start to make the shifts that do allow it to be a yes. But yeah, I think that's where I would start, is really just questioning with curiosity, with a lens of acceptance, with a lens of love. This is like, okay, I'm 42 years old now. This is the pattern that my life has been in. Has it always been this way? And if so, do I still choose this?
Yeah, I love that. I've just recently started re-listening to Joe Dispenza's morning and evening meditations, and I love how he guides you to not lose, but to let go of the old self and focus on the future self that you really want to be. I love that as a tool. I think that's a brilliant, brilliant tool to share.
So good. And even just that word, letting go. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Like, that is so hard for me, even like being in and of the work now for years and coaching people through their own transformation. Like, letting go of the things are so difficult. And what's been working for me recently is this idea of letting it be. And for me, that feels like a completely different energy in my body.
Yeah.
Letting it go feels like scary, right? It's like, well, cannot. But letting it be is like spacious.
It feels relaxing. That when you said it, when you shared it, and because we can see each other on video, I could just feel this relaxing rather than a letting go. It's, let it be. I love that.
Yeah, for me, it brings up acceptance. And something that I teach in my programs is that, like, nothing is healed in the energy of judgment, and it's only healed with acceptance and compassion. And so letting things be exactly how they are is such a gift for the self, and brings just so much more ease to more empathic people, like anybody, but more empathic people, more sensitive people. We're our harshest critic, right? We are.
Very much, yeah. Yes. What other tools do you share in your programs and with your one-on-one clients to help with the inner critic and the perfectionism, all the things that come with being sensitive and empathic?
Well, the thing about, being a coach, being a leader, being the CEO, is we always have to be doing our own personal work. Like, I think that's a number one. That's my number one value. I have a team supporting me, because what we teach is always coming back for us, right? And if I'm in the work of supporting other people in their limiting beliefs, guess what I'm working on, like, every single day? And those parts, like you mentioned, the inner critic and the saboteur and all those parts, IFS and internal family system and that modality, which is one of my favorite ways to work with those more challenging parts, starts again with acceptance, by really getting to the root and seeing that those parts developed because they were useful, right? Yeah. They were developed at a time as protective strategies and survival strategies. And we get to befriend those parts, because just like trying to let go of your perfectionist just ends up fighting with your perfectionist. Right? Trying to get rid of your inner critic. I don't know about you, but I just end up fighting my head with my inner critic. Then nobody's happy. And so really seeing those parts for the value that they're attempting to bring is what creates a lot more ease in the system, in the nervous system, Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that acceptance, because we are one, and of course we've all got different parts, and some we might not like as much, but they're still a part of us. So I think accepting every part of ourselves is absolutely key.
Yeah, because when we can usually, like, if you can do this with support and follow, the part back to where it kind of first came online.
Yeah.
When it first started supporting your system, I was working this weekend with like a really tender 15-year-old part of mine that was just like, wanted to be chosen and wanting to be included, and was feeling like deep feelings of hurt. And when I can go back to, that makes a lot of sense that you would be feeling that way. And, see that that's when that part started to shut down and close in on yourself and protect herself and pull away. I was like, that makes a lot of sense. So rather than like forcing myself to like be vulnerable, be exposed, I'm like, well, it makes a lot of sense that you would protect yourself. Yeah. And really ending to her is, again, like when the system gets to soften and she feels safe and has her needs met, right? And I've met them, then I can go ahead and say the thing I need to say, or show up for the thing that I want to show up for in integrity. And so while, that protective mechanism for me to pull away was so useful for a time when I didn't have the supports available, when I didn't have the capacity to, meet those needs for myself, or the supports around me to support me in it, I needed to be able to pull away, or else my system wouldn't have been able to take it. But now I'm a grown woman. A grown woman, different protection, and I've got me, and I've got my nervous system tools, and I've got my journaling practice, and I've got a pleasure practice, and I've got so many like rich supports around me that I can do the thing that I couldn't do when I was 15.
Yeah. And I love how you bring up the 15-year-old or whatever age. I know we're so clever. We can bring these protection and safety mechanisms in place when we're young and when we need it. But as we get older, they stay in place and we don't always know how to shift them. One of the tools that I use with my rapid transformational therapy when I work with my one-on-one clients is role, function, purpose. And we give that part, that protection or that safety, we give it another role. And it's brilliant. Like it's not saying, go away, we don't want you anymore. It's actually just giving it a new role. And it's so beautiful how it evolves into a more nurturing, more useful role as you get older.
So beautiful. Exactly. As those parts are really, foundational to the system, and we're not trying to get rid of them.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're not trying to get rid of them, but we do get to upgrade them.
Yeah, so that's right. Yeah.
To where we want to go and who we want to be and how we want to show up. The thing that I struggled with, being, a coach now for a few years, things continue to transform in my business and in my work because I do. And so, for anybody who thinks like, oh, you just, pick the one thing and you follow that path and you go, it's rarely that, at least not in my experience and my clients experience the gray area all the time. But I was struggling a few years ago, thinking that I had a niche issue, like really thinking in my business, like I have a problem with my niche. I don't have the clarity. I don't know what it is. And what I came to see through getting support with a coach was like, I was kind of bouncing between two groups of people that I really enjoyed supporting, was called to support, but I wasn't sure which one. And it reminded me of being in grade 6 and having two groups of friends. And it was recess time. And I was trying to be part of conversation A. And then I was trying to be part of conversation B because I didn't want to miss out. And so I spent the entire recess bouncing between these two groups. And then at the end of recess, I was like, that wasn't fun. Like I wasn't part of anything. Like what happened?
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
And I realized that that was my abandonment wound.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to be involved with everything. So I didn't feel abandoned. So I didn't feel left out. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's what I was choosing from in my business. Like, what if, I pick these people and then what's going to happen to those people? They're not going to like me. And I unconsciously had this pattern of not being able to choose, preventing the show. And it was absolutely fascinating. And so I think that a lot of times as entrepreneurs, as CEOs, as coaches and leaders, we rarely have business problems. We have personal problems that are masquerading as business problems.
I love that you had that awareness, that you were able to go back and link that up. Did you have support with that? Were you working with a one-on-one coach?
Oh, wait. We can't see our own stuff because it's like,
I just had to ask. I wondered if you had your own tools to do that, but having the support of someone is often the way that they can see things we don't.
Yeah, exactly. I'm such an advocate of always having a team.
Yeah. Now, you have a wonderful freebie that you offer your audience that you very kindly said that you will offer it to our audience on the podcast today. Can you share a bit about that, please, Andrea?
I have a freebie. It is called Do Less, Make More. It's 5 unconventional strategies to grow and sustain a heart-centered business. And it really is for coaches and CEOs and entrepreneurs who want more, like desire greater impact, greater freedom, greater ease, more clients, more money, but aren't really know that they don't need to hustle for it. Mm-hmm. And so the movie is walking people through just a different, more unconventional way to truly build the aligned business and life of your desires.
That sounds wonderful. I'll pop a link into the show notes and all the other links where people can find you. And can you, before I let you go, I've got a question to ask, but I also just want you to share with the audience what you can help them with. Like, what offers do you have?
Amazing. So great place to land is my free Facebook group. It's called The Empowered Coach. You're very welcome to join for trainings and a beautiful, powerful community there. And a few times a year, I'd offer a group coaching program called Safe to Rise.
Ooh, great name.
It is truly about cultivating that inner sense of safety to rise up into our fullest potential. And ultimately, Safe to Rise is the antidote to self-doubt.
Love it. Love it. Well, I'll pop links to that as well. And my final question before I let you go today, when you feel overwhelmed or unfocused, what do you do?
I didn't want to overthink this question. I knew it was coming and I was like, I want to see what drops in when you and what I feel called to share right now is lying on the floor, swaddled in a blanket. And I do a breathwork technique where I breathe in for 4 and out for 6.
Oh, love it.
And it is so grounding, so centering. It stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system. So very quickly calming down is like one of my favorite things to do.
Oh, beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that, Andrea.
You're welcome.
Well, great to talk to you today. And thanks everyone for tuning in to another episode.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Sensitive CEO Show. If you enjoyed this episode, or if you think it would be useful to someone else, please leave me a review on sensitiveceo.show. Just follow the prompt in the menu. Each month, I'm offering one lucky reviewer a chance to win a 1-hour business and mindset audit with me. This in-depth audit covers the 5 pillars of your online business, and you'll walk away with super clear action steps specifically for you and your business. You'll be re-energized and motivated to step into your greatness. You'll also find all of the show notes for each episode on the website sensitiveceo.show. And while you're there, make sure you subscribe to the short and sweet newsletter. You'll get weekly recommendations and tips, especially for HSPs, empaths, and introverts. And as the name implies, the email is short and sweet. The Sensitive CEO Show, igniting your sensitive superpowers.